Welcome to the original Gangsters Podcast. I'm your host, Scott Burnstein, repping my hometown of Detroit, out here on the West Coast, visiting some family this fall, checking in from my sister-in-law's basement, but gotta come at you and bring the heat. And right now, the heat is in the NBA and New York's five families with this huge Operation Royal Flush bust that happened last week. I came on and talked a little bit about my initial thoughts uh, over the weekend, and now I want to file a second episode of updating everybody with what I know now. It's been 4 or 5 days, and I've been able to get some more information, report out or color up some of my previous reporting when it comes to Sugar Shane Hennon, who is the mastermind of this whole thing, who is cooperating. And I want to start with him again because he really is the main character in the story, and it's been very underreported so far. But make no mistake, this entire conspiracy, the foundation was laid down by Sugar Shane Hennon, Pittsburgh bad boy, brought up around the organized crime scene in the steel town, had a mother and a father, we'll get to that in a moment, who had connections to organized crime figures in Pittsburgh, has gambling, assault, narcotics trafficking convictions, has a cooperation past from before this Operation Royal Flush, and it was the Gambino crime family that stumbled upon Sugar Shane Hennon, and from Hennon in Pittsburgh to the Gambinos in Brooklyn, and the Gambinos then brought in three other crime families. And I'm going to report today. I teased it out a little bit last week, but I can report, and I'm confident in this reporting that there are at least three other mafia crime families outside of the five families in New York City that played some role in this card game fixing, point shaving ordeal that we have on our hands right now. I can say that one of those families, I'm being told, is Buffalo, and Buffalo's longstanding West Coast crew. And the other family right now, I'm being told, is what's left of the LA Mafia, the Dragna crime family. Haven't heard much from them in a while, but I'll let everybody know with what I'm hearing throughout this episode. But this is really the first chapter or two, and this is going to be an epic novel. And as blown away as people are, both in the public and in the media these last 4 or 5 days since this case hit, I can't overemphasize how, if you think this is a nuclear bomb landing in the middle of, this nexus point between the mafia and professional sports, brace yourselves, because there's a fleet of missile engaged warplanes coming and are going to, on the verge of dropping another 10 bombs. And it's not just going to be the NBA. It's not just going to be New York's five families. It's going to be college basketball. And it's going to be, like I said, other crime families. I'm not exactly sure how many people will be charged going forward, what exact connections they'll have to what groups. But there's a lot more to this puzzle that we don't even know what exact pieces are there yet. It's like you're sitting at a table and you have all these puzzle pieces that you know, and it's very difficult to put that together. But then in another room somewhere else in the building, there's a whole set of other puzzle pieces that you're not even being presented, that you don't even you haven't even looked at yet. So this is when it's all said and done, you're going to have dozens of players, and I think hundreds of games, or over 100 games over a 2-3 year period. Like I said, NBA, Division I college, all the way from top 25 teams to the lowest portions of Division I ball. I've heard there was a lot of action, suspicious action going on, and seemingly, non-impactful conference play, things that would have really no general interest, like when Nevada plays Cal State Fullerton, or when Northern Arizona plays West Texas State, stuff like that, where there isn't a general interest from the public. So there should be limited action on those type of games. And there were games like that were setting off red flags, to regulators in the NCAA and federal authorities over the last couple of years. Shout out to ESPN, who really started to put this thing all together last winter. And then I've piggybacked off them when they brought in the name Shane Hennon. And again, still, I think his role in this is being underreported, but I want to be very clear that none of this, we're not sitting here talking about this if Shane Hennon doesn't connect a lot of these different factions and groups and people, spanning from the world of professional poker, the world of professional gambling influencers, touts, NBA college basketball players, coaches, scouts, and then the Mafia. And it all, again, it started with Shane, but in terms of Sugar Shane, but the Bonanos who are involved in this, the Lucchese's, the Genovese, they were brought into it by the Gambinos. And I want to go back to something that I heard about last summer, or I should say 2 summers ago. So the summer of 2024, I had no idea who Shane Hennon was. And I got some people from the Pittsburgh area reaching out to me, telling me that a guy named Shane Hennon, who had some ties into the old Pittsburgh LCN, the LaRocca crime family, has been gone now probably for, in any functional status, probably for 20 years. There might have been some semblance of an organization in the last 20 years. But, with Sonny T and Judy being gone, it's pretty much been gone for 20, 25 years. That Shane Hennon and somebody that's father was a high level, very trusted Pittsburgh LCN figure, were going around Pittsburgh, Aliquippa, Erie, lining up bookmakers, shaking down bookmakers, trying to consolidate them in a network. I later heard that the Gambinos were back in this play. I've also heard unconfirmed, I want to be clear, I've not confirmed this. I've heard from a number of different people that there are people living in that area in Pittsburgh, Aliquippa, Erie, that at the very least have been empowered by the Gambinos, and at the most have buttons have been made and either sent to Pittsburgh or came up from Pittsburgh to New York, and that the Gambinos have oversight of what's ever left of the Pittsburgh Mafia goes through the Brooklyn Gambino crew. I didn't report any of this. When I was reading the ESPN reporting about Shane Hennon, bells started to go off. Went back to some of the sourcing that I had on him before, and now I was very interested. I went from kind of, I don't want to say I was dismissive of the information, but it was, out of a 1 to 10, it registered like a 3. And now it was registering like out of 1 to 10, it was registering like a 15. So I was eager to get information on Hennon. So I don't want to belabor the backstory on him. I've said it before. He was around a lot of Pittsburgh Mafia figures. Frank Eunice, the Frank Eunice crew is actually how he got to the Gambinos. The Williams brothers, Junior Williams and his 2 brothers, Duffy Conley, Bobby Ionelli. These were guys that he grew up around as a young boy, learning the world of OC and gambling. I believe his mother is Italian, and he has a uncle in one of these groups, his mother's brother. And that's how one of the ways that he was brought in. I've recently been told by some sourcing that his dad, an Irish guy, was also linked in to the Pittsburgh Mafia back when the Pittsburgh Mafia had juice, and that his tie into Pittsburgh was through a guy, a local legend, but not a name that a lot of people know outside of Pittsburgh, Ninny the Torch, Anthony Lagatuda, Ninny the Torch, famous arsonist, hitman, nightclub owner, bookie, Shylock, worked directly for John LaRocca, and lived until, I think, 96, worked for Mike Genovese, Kelly Manarino, Wango, those guys. And so Hennon had a father that was in with, a notorious hitman, an arsonist. He had a mother that was tied into all these gambling superpowers in the Steel City. And eventually gets chased out of Pittsburgh. Debts, allegations of informing, and goes to Philadelphia. Eventually gets kicked out of Philadelphia for the same thing, gets chased, comes to Las Vegas, reinvents himself as this gambling online influencer type. And from there, he either reconnects or connects with the Gambinos. I haven't got that part down yet, but through the Eunice crew, Frank Eunice, who's been dead since 2020, was the Pittsburgh Mafia's guy that liaisoned with the New York Mafia and the New Jersey Mafia. Eunice was a tough guy, but he was also an earner, operated mostly out of Aliquippa and the Erie area, but was a guy that had direct access to Mike Genovese and Sonny Cianciuti and the LaRocca crew before that. And through Sugar Shane's ties into the Eunice group, because again, the Pittsburgh Mafia doesn't exist anymore. So remnants of the Eunice crew, which were remnants of the Pittsburgh Mafia, connect Sugar Shane with the Gambinos, and that's where at least some of his bankroll for getting this sprawling point fixing operation off the ground, and then learning last week that it's complemented by this card fixing conspiracy. It's this was very ambitious, and I think in some ways the fact that it lasted as long as it did, it is a tribute to how well this thing was put together. It's falling apart now, and we've already, I think I've said it for the last year. I definitely said it last year. I'm not sure if I said it on the last video, but this is going in front of Congress. I mean, there's going to be Senate hearings on this, and Adam Silver's already been subpoenaed to go there at the end of this month. So, expect to be seeing on national television people having to go and go under oath in front of the legislature to explain themselves here. But the fact that it went on, and it went on 2 to 3 years, that they could keep a lid on this thing to that degree is impressive, because most times, halfway through a season of fixing, word gets out about the fix. It looks like, again, this thing lasted for 2-3 years. So let's get to the other crime families that I'm told have involvement here. I heard at least 3, and right now I can name Buffalo and LA. We know that there is a tie between the Gambinos and the LA Mafia in terms of who leads what's left of the Dragnet crime family. Allegedly, it's Tommy Gambino, whose dad, Rosario Sal Gambino, was one of the OG Cherry Hill Gambinos. So right there's a bloodline link. But I'm not hearing Tommy Gambino's name directly, more indirectly. The group of people in LA that I'm hearing, or in the LA in California, is the old Jimmy Catchy crew. And Jimmy Catchy was a Buffalo guy that relocated to LA in the 70s, rose to be a capo, ran Palm Springs, had a street boss role for a while, very respected, was kind of the muscle behind the Milano brothers. Not kind of, he was. And I'm told that some old members of the Catchy crew are involved in running these poker games, these fixed card games, or were in LA, Palm Springs, some suburbs, San Fernando Valley, San Bernardino, and Vegas. And that the Buffalo West Coast crew in Vegas and in LA are also, teaming with the guys from LA in doing this for the overall conspiracy based out of New York City with the 5 families. So without, I have not heard this name tied to this specific conspiracy, but we all know, it's not a secret, Bobby Pinero, Bobby Snowball, has been the Buffalo mob's West Coast guy for 30, 40 years. I've been told that he's been spending a lot more time in Buffalo, but had been spending a lot more time in Buffalo for a couple years, and is now at least half and half, and might actually be all the way back in Las Vegas. I've not heard his name specifically tied to this, but I'm hearing Buffalo West Coast crew involved in some of these fixed poker games that were going on in Vegas and LA. So, this is, you got a lot of moving parts, man. And this thing has a lot of tentacles. And I think you're going to have superseding indictment after superseding indictment after we haven't even got to the college players yet. Right now, you got a Jonte Porter case from 24. Now you got a Terry Rozier, Chauncey Billups, Damon Jones, along with these mobsters in 25. By 26, you're going to have all these. I mean, you got so many college programs that are under the microscope in this very same conspiracy. You got players that have already been run out of the NCAA. The one that comes to mind that I mentioned before, Fab Miller, the former point guard at Temple, who tried to transfer to Virginia Tech. That didn't work. Now he's in Europe. So you're going to have more NBA guys, more college basketball guys that we haven't heard of yet, because there have been names in the paper. There's been names in the media. There have been no charges, but there are going to be college basketball players, maybe college coaches charged in this thing. This is going to rock not just the NBA, but this is going to rock pro sports to its core. This is going to be the biggest sports gambling scandal in American history, and we haven't seen 3/4 of it yet. So I'm just telling everybody, buckle up. This is going to be they're not coming with the sledgehammer right away. This might look like a sledgehammer to some people, but believe me, this is like a rock hammer. They haven't brought out the heavy artillery yet. This is, well, in terms of the Mafia, they, naming four of the 5 families, bringing in guys like Joe Brooklyn, Joe Lonnie, Ernie Aiello. That's some heavyweight stuff. But in terms of names from pro basketball, college basketball, this is nothing. I mean, you're going to be seeing a lot more, hearing a lot more, and they're going to, be deliberate in how they roll this out. You saw it. I mean, the Jonte Porter case came down in the summer of 24. They waited another 16, 17, 18 months before they came with this one. I wouldn't be shocked if there's another case, another superseding indictment that drops before the end of the year. I definitely expect more cases in 26. I think all the different jurisdictions are still wrapping their brains around this. This was something that was rolling from New York to LA on an almost nightly basis for 2.5 years, 3 years. It's staggering. It really is. It really is staggering. And Shane Hennon, Shane, he's a resourceful, resilient mob figure that's probably done. His career's probably done. He's 40 years old. He'll be living in witness protection for the rest of his life, most likely looking over his shoulder. But there was a lot of times where he was written off the page and came back blasting, and he seemed to have 9 lives, and he lived all 9 of them. But he had balls, man. He had a lot of balls. And one of the things you see if you read through the indictment, is that it looks like him and his right-hand man, a guy named Flapper, who also was indicted in this, his nickname was Flapper. It looks like they tried to get cute with the rival, not rivals, but the other families. They're with the Gambinos. Looks like they tried to get cute with Bonanos and Genovese, Lucchese's, because these high-end fixed poker games some of them were being staged at the same location, and it would be something that every family would know about and have a piece of in the village that was on Washington Place. And then at some point, it looks like allegedly Sugar Shane and Flapper decide to, on the down low, open up another game without letting everybody know, thinking that them and the Gambinos can, keep the lion's share of the profits, or all the profits, without letting the other groups know. The Bonanos got tipped off to it and came storming into the game and shut it down, guns blazing, not blazing in the fact that they were shooting, but pulling their weapons. So Sugar Shane, man, when he swings big, but also it didn't take a ton of due diligence if you were his co-conspirators here. If you would have done I'm not here to tell criminals how to be criminals or to do any type of shame on you for not doing X, Y, and Z, because who am I to talk? But I will say, in my researching of Shane Hennon, it didn't take more than a minute or two and a couple Google searches to realize that he was at least an alleged informer in his narcotics case from like 2009, or at some point in the late 2010s, early 2000, or late 2000s, early 2010s. So I don't know, who was dealing with who. I know that Shane Hennon is at the middle of this whole thing, so it's hard for me to believe that there could have been people involved in this conspiracy that weren't either dealing directly with Shane or people that were connected to Shane. And maybe you don't ask questions, you don't know what a guy's name is, but you got 4 of the 5 families here looking at some, serious charges in terms of, the impact, in the public eye. Maybe not in terms of how much time you end up doing, but this is something that makes an impact with people, and that's how the mafia has stayed out of the headlines over, for the most part, over the last quarter century, because they've done crimes that aren't going to end up in the newspaper, and you don't have the general public worried about how their bottom line can be affected by the mob. That narrative now has been kind of erased because a lot of people are gambling. A lot of people gamble on the NBA. More people, in today's society than ever before, because you're inundated with it. And when you're talking about the integrity of the product, that's difficult to and I'm talking about in terms of as somebody who's betting, and you can say now potentially that the mafia is taking money out of my pocket if they're messing with betting lines and prop bets, and that then can lead to a ripple effect of the people putting pressure on the law enforcement, and then the law enforcement having to get results of investigations that wouldn't have been prompted if it had not been for stuff like this. So this is already bit like 4 of the 5 families, and I'm hearing that there's other families in other parts of this country that could be bit from it. So I just wonder, did anybody other than maybe face to face, hey, do you know who this guy is? Oh, he's tied to this, the Eunice guys from Pittsburgh, or other than a basic, hey, where does this guy come from? Did anybody do what kind of vetting was done? Because from what I've been told, Shane Hennon got pulled off a plane in January of 25. Feds laid out what they had, and he folded like a cheap suit. Which isn't shocking because he has a cooperation history. So these are all things that have come up in my conversations over the last couple of days, but definitely the Gambinos are the ones that have been at the tip of the spear when it comes to the New York 5 families. They have some presence in Pittsburgh right now, and they use their sway as arguably the second most powerful New York LCN family to get help from Tommy Gambino's LA mob. I don't know. Bobby Panero, Tommy Gambino are 2 names that I've brought up in this video, but I have not heard anything specifically about either one of them. I have heard stuff about their organization. I want to be their respective organizations. So I want to be clear about that. But I know that from what I'm told, the guys from the old Jimmy Catchy crew that got involved in some of these poker games were brought into it by the Gambinos in New York, who had reached out to the Gambino contacts in LA. I'm doing the math myself, saying it's Tommy Gambino. I don't know that for a fact. And I don't know if Bobby Panero has any role in these games either, other than the fact that Bobby Panero has, for 30, 40 years, ran Buffalo operations on the West Coast, and I'm being told that Buffalo was a part of these fixed games. So take it for what it is. I'll let everybody know what I'm hearing as the week goes forward. I'm helping out a lot of national outlets right now. ESPN, Yahoo, Fox Sports, Mark Stein, Pablo Torre, with some of their coverage of this. So look for me on some of those platforms. I got quoted in an ESPN story today about this, written by Michael Fletcher. So you can check that out. Hope everybody is enjoying the content with me on the road, making my way across the country. I've spent the last couple of weeks out on the West Coast visiting family. So I'll let everybody know where I'm going to be as we move forward. But right now, still able to file reports, and I'm on top of this NBA mob card fixing, point shaving scandal like no other reporter, really. And I'm not trying to be boastful, but if you've been following the OG, you knew about Shane Hennon, you knew about the Mafia's ties to the NBA and college basketball gambling investigation 10 months ago. So we got you whenever it comes to underworld news in North America, whether it be Italian mob, bikers, Russians, NBA players working with the Mafia. We got it all. So please like, share, and subscribe. Original Gangsters Podcast, uncovering the underworld, one city, one region, one country at a time. I'm out.